Oh yes, my fellow hunters, what a question that is. The next siege monster, Iceborne's Kulve Taroth, that might end up being Kulve Taroth. But what if it's not? Yeah, doesn't that get you go? Okay, look, recently there has been a little tidbitty interview with the developers, and they have said that they want to add a siege monster like Kulve Taroth to Iceborne. They don't want it to go a full cycle without us having something siegey, and that makes sense. Every Monster Hunter's always had its little injection of the siege monster, and they do believe that Kulve Taroth had positive feedback from players.
You serious?
Okay, that's not entirely fair. There are a lot of exemplary aspects to the Kulve Taroth experience, and on the whole, I do consider it to be the best siege monster they have ever done, especially if you disconnect it from the RNG that was involved. There is very little wrong with it. Still some things, and I know it's not completely fair to just, well, disconnect it from something so intrinsically tied to it, but the actual experience of Kulving to the end, yeah, that is a cut above the likes of slowly wailing on Lao Shanglung for half an hour. We have come a long way since then, and I think it'll be fun to talk about what might be. But firstly, let's talk about what was, or at least what was in World. We, of course, have Zora Magdaros, and I don't think anyone has really done Zora Magdaros, even for the first time, with a kind of, yeah, this is monster hunting attitude. But I don't also think that at least the initial experience was terrible. It's very cool climbing on the back of a living mountain fire turtle. Like, that is a good concept. Just, well, exploding lava rocks and then going AFK while the NPCs finish the rest of the fight isn't the most, let's say, thrilling. Arch-tempered, where you could actually fail, added a bit of pace to it, and that was good. But here's the thing. The development of Monster Hunter World, a year of it, a year of time and resources was spent on making Zora Magdaros work. Whoa. You think about that. They spent a year on the Zora experience. Getting it to be both a monster and a moving platform, a technical feat, but ultimately the result, not worth a year being taken away from, well, what could have been funneled into any other aspect, not least of which is a bigger, larger roster. I'm sure they regret that somewhat. I am sure they realise the feedback on Zora certainly doesn't justify that investment, but, you know, not the end of the world. At least, hopefully, if it doesn't get repeated again. So ultimately, Zora, you're like a 3 out of 10. But then we got Kulve Taroth, and Kulve Taroth was golden. So funny. Like, you ever just sit there, guys, and think, God, I'm really funny? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm really funny. It's probably why you watch these videos, because of how actually hilarious and original I am. Like, even this bit where I'm saying how funny I am as an attempt to ironically actually be funny, that's hilarious. It's like layers of hilarious. And even this meta bit where I'm talking about how I'm talking about I'm hilarious. So, Kulve Taroth is a lovely little idea, slowly rappelling it through the caverns of El Dorado, before a final climactic encounter where we go for the horns, because like Rajang with Kirin, we are sustainable farmers. The only downside really is that a lot of people do want to actually finish a monster. The amount of requests for, please bring Kulve back, but let us murder her, it's actually kind of what I feel like the monster community is fairly bloodthirsty. Then again, we do spend all day killing animals like it's our job. Well, it is our job as monsters. So maybe I can understand that, but honestly, the amount of why couldn't we kill her? She needs to die! And she's just over there like, I like gold. Who are you people in my house? I'm Kulve. And it's just really sad. The poor old lady. So, the actual fight itself, there really is little to complain about. As an experience, as a repeatable experience, it's the best Siege fight to me. It really is. You get the she's ignoring you while you use the environment and wail on her as creatively as you can phase. You get actually fighting her in a cool little battle. Not quite as good as Gogmazios, of course, praise be to him. But it is very excellent, and then you slowly move down, eventually getting to the nest of molten gold, or at least the final room, certainly wherever she retreats to, is the nest, and having the floor melt, the ceiling drip, everything heat up, it really is ingenious. As a monster and as a design, 10 out of 10 for me, really is. Where Kulve Taroth falls down is the pursuit system. In an attempt to kind of shoehorn in, oh yep, all 16 people do it, they kind of really made it irritating as all hell, because it is by far and away most efficient to just go on the first hunt with all of you and just collect tracks for like 10 minutes and then return from the hunt, power the pursuit level to 5 or 6, and then actually enjoy the fight as you finish her. And look, I'm sure they thought, well, no, people are just going to go on the hunt, they're going to fight her as much as they can, she'll flee, they'll get a bit of pursuit, and then they'll just repeat that a couple times and eventually kill her. And in a vacuum, that makes sense as a line of logic. But the thing is, Monster Hunter players are, if anything, efficient, and it simply is just pointless. It's not fun to wail on a pursuit level 1 Kulve Taroth, knowing that the chances of actually finishing her then are slim to none unless you are just a perfectly planned out speed running team. So you just collect tracks and then actually get what you want. They really truly needed to make it worth going to town, actually trying to kill her at pursuit level 1 as a fresh Kulve, because it feels like work. Does pursuit level 1 until you actually get to enjoy the full hunt. Easily they could have just made it so every time you get her to a new area, if you push her to area 2 or 3 on pursuit level 1, then you get a huge jump up in pursuit level. Then instead of just track farming her, you could at least try and fight her. You might get super lucky and break horns on the first one, and that would be incredible, but even if you just push her a few areas, suddenly you're at pursuit level 4, 5, 6, and then you can actually complete it. It's just a super off-the-top simple solution. So that isn't good. The behavior that her pursuit mechanic encourages is anti-fun. It really is, and you can't just ignore it. It's not one of those situations where it's like, well, just don't do the meta thing. It's pointless trying to fight her the first time. In fact, it's more than pointless. It works against you. If you try and fight her instead of track farming, it will just take longer to reach the pursuit level where you actually can kill her. So you just spent more time bashing your head against a gold wall. Then, of course, we have the RNG weapon drops, which inherently isn't an awful system. Relic weapons worked quite well back in 4 Ultimate, at least for the most part. It might be rose-tinted glasses, I know I spent a while trying to get them, but either way, the main issue with Kulve's RNG is not the system that it's delivered in, it's not the fact that there are RNG weapons, it's that there are so many trash, pointless ones. There is nothing wrong with RNG as an idea in Monster Hunter. We're all used to it. It's just a name of the game, down from getting the gem or the mantle that you want, all the way to decorations, at least in current Monster Hunter, but every iteration, the desire sensor exists as a thing for a reason. But eventually you can push it too far where the satisfaction of playing is overcast by just the tedium of, what's the point? I'm not gonna get it. If you make something too rare, no amount of fun will keep people playing for long. It's just how the human brain is wired. So what needed to happen, instead of having a huge pool of utter garbage, You just needed to take, alright, there are 14 weapons, so let's have 42 options. That makes sense. 3 for each weapon, they're all good. When you finish the hunt, you get 3 or 5 of them. Okay, it might take you 10 or so, maybe, culls before you get what you're after, but that's reasonable. That's Monster Hunter. Not where we have it now, or at least where it was, where people had spent so many hours, and even to this day, even me, I have not got some of the weapons I wanted from Kulve. So if Kulve Taroth comes back, like she supposedly might do, she was in the Iceborne trailer of all the monsters that we should face in Master Rank, if they actually re-add her, they need to address the RNG weapon issue and the pursuit issue. Those two things fixed, easily a 9-10 out of 10 Siege experience. As it currently stands, about 7 out of 10. But on that note, if Kulve does return, as the murder hobos we all are, I really would like the following as a little bit of a change-up. As we know, Iceborne is all about the variance. It has got more in than any other game. And, well, a variant is very easily created by environmental or external impacts on an individual member of a species. So, Kulve Taroth, we destroyed her cloak, bashed her horns to smithereens, and sent her fleeing. So it's very easy to be like, alright, the Master Rank Kulve Taroth, we start fighting her, lo and behold, she's missing her horns. She is angry, and she is all about that revenge. It's a much more direct fight, a much more aggressive, fast-paced, intense experience. We have shattered Kulve Taroth, horns are gone, and she is doing it. And this time you start off in a super frantic fight. You start to win, maybe she gets to half health, then she gets her cloak back by, well, doing the burrowing thing, or maybe something a bit more impressive. Then she starts to run from you, realizing that even now she'll still lose the fight, so then you chase her and do the siegey part where you damage her while she's running, but again, much more fast-paced. Then eventually you actually do follow her back to the nest that she escaped to, and this time you do get to go for the finish. We really have a full circle, and it is the same Kulve Taroth we canonically repelled the first time around, and we get to actually see the job done. Now that, I think, would be a really nice way to bring Kulve back in a way that isn't disappointing, while adding in the, changes to the actual system surrounding her that work. You can still have the RNG drops, you can have a few maybe guaranteed, because we're actually killing her now, but let's be honest, a Master Rank version of Kulve armor? Oh my word, that would be sexy. So that's really my thoughts on Kulve. Is it likely? I honestly kind of think so. Even though the interview they said they want to bring something like Kulve, she was in the trailer, there's plenty of room to still explore with her. She's a very fascinating monster, and it would also be a shame to just immediately lose the Caverns of El Dorado. It's a fantastic map, and I feel like there's so much more potential for, well, a lot of things to be done on it than we have seen. Then, of course, in Iceborne proper, we got the Velkhana siege, which was a whole map with loads of cool things, including a bloody chain ballista. Oh my god, it's a minigun ballista! And I can move one! I'm doing a strafing ballista minigun run! Oh my word! And a huge fuck-off metal stake spiker firer that we just never use again. Why would they build one of the coolest siege stages for a single 10-15 minute non-repeatable hunt? I mean, nanny the fuck, okay? Please tell me this is going to be used. I don't know, throw bloody Ucanlos on here, why not? Oh my word, it's an excellent siege encounter. It's hard to evaluate Velkhana herself because she's a normal monster and she's a, for the most part, a good fight, a bit too AoE spammy, but that's fine. The actual siege setup was brilliant. I loved it. I loved every second of it, and it's a shame that it's just gone now, apparently, so I really hope that does come back. But that brings us to the question, what Iceborne siege monster are we thinking? And I realize we're answering the question 15 minutes into the video, but that's okay. That's alright. For me, It really comes down to 3 distinct possibilities, and really they're quite obvious, if I'm completely honest with you. Number 1, a Fatalis Siege. That makes sense to me. Heavily hinted, the new model, a perfect way to revamp him is to make him CG because he's that powerful, the most powerful lore-wise monster that literally exists. Have him actually be a cataclysmic event that we have to deal with in a way that's a cut above just a normal hunt. A Fatalis Siege would be excellent. Slowly withering him down, actually make it like a war against Fatalis. Get that Shrade feel, except this time, hopefully, we'll be a little bit less devastated and nearly extinct. The next option, of course, is Kulve version 2, as I described. I think that'd be a really nice way to do it, another way to inject some late game evolution with new weapons and armor that are really worth going for, and really turn that all up to 11, and that just makes sense. And lastly, of course, the wild card always is a brand new monster. Kulve just came out of nowhere, and I could totally see them putting in a brand new Siege experience with a brand new creation, and here we go. Though I do think that is much less likely than the other two, just because it seems interesting that they're just going to whip out a new Siege monster as a random update every time. Yes, in the high rank we had Devil Joe, then Kulve. This time we've had Rajang, then Siege Monster. Question mark, is that December's monster? Maybe, maybe it isn't. I feel like it's likely. I almost want to say I'd put money on December's creature not just being a normal hunt like Lunastra, Devil Joe, Rajang. I feel like there's going to be something special about it. I just kind of have that gut feeling. Will it be completely new? Who knows? Either way, guys, that's my thoughts roundup of the Siege monsters and what might be happening going forward. The patterns are there, the hints are there, but we'll see what actually materializes. What do you all think? What are where are your loyalties lying upon those options? Like if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more. I'll see you soon. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.